Nintendo nerds? It's 4 p.m., which means we are going to absolutely dunk on Nintendo and the Switch 2, the worst gaming console ever! Mario Kart World, Donkey Kong Bananza, Pokemon Legends ZA, Kirby Air Riders, Pokemon Pokopia, all of them sucked! That's right, idiots, buckle in, because despite how much I secretly love and support this company behind your backs, I still need your clicks and ad revenue. So today, we're gonna talk about why Nintendo is secretly going bankrupt!
Man, glad I'm not that guy. You know, time sure flies. Hey, speaking of, at the time of this recording, it's been about a year since the Switch 2 launched. Ain't that crazy? Today I wanted to talk about that, talk about the first year of the console, and just so we're clear, this isn't going to be a comprehensive list of everything that's happened in the world of Nintendo. I largely just wanted to talk about my own personal experience with the console, what I've liked, what I think could use some elbow grease, and how it snugly nestled itself into my daily life. So, to set the stage, on the 5th of June, 2025, the Nintendo Switch 2 was released to the world, opening up the floodgates for Nintendo fans both new and old to do exactly what Nintendo fans do best: complain online instead of playing on their new games and consoles, while still paying full retail price for their games and consoles. Go figure! Okay, listen up, gang. I'm about to be a hypocrite. The Switch 2 largely is a really solid console. But that doesn't mean it's perfect. Ha! Gotcha! Oh man, this is gonna do numbers on Twitter. To get things out of the way, I don't hate this console, nor do I hate Nintendo. I've been a fan of their games and consoles my whole life, much like I'm willing to bet a lot of you are. So, just over a year ago when the Nintendo Switch 2 was announced, I was whelmed, to say the least. For context, I loved my original Nintendo Switch. It marked a significant chapter in my life, being the first console that I both bought on day one and with my own money, and it was the console that accompanied me as I graduated high school and entered adulthood. It released with hardware that was quite aged in comparison to its 8th generation console buddies at the time, the PS4 and Xbox One, which was only felt more as the industry transitioned to the 9th generation with the PS5, the Xbox Series X, and then later improvements in the PC market with new GPUs and handheld PCs like the Steam Deck too. Outside of first-party titles and most indies, the thing usually felt like a compromise experience. Like, yeah, at least it was portable, I guess, but most would agree that if you could only have one gaming system, the Nintendo Switch probably wasn't the best move. There were rumors for pretty much the entire lifespan of the thing that it would be eventually replaced by a quote-unquote Pro model that will finally bring it up to spec with the competition. And those rumors eventually gave way for the Nintendo Switch OLED model. Now, I picked one of these up and I really liked it, trading in my original Switch for it, but it had more or less the same guts on the inside as the launch model, meaning any issues you had with the original console were kind of the same. My issue was that it didn't have an OLED screen, so checkmate. What does OLED mean? Okay, enough beating around the bush. The Switch 2, it was revealed in January of 2025 and leaked well before that, and it was exactly what people wanted, myself included. A bigger, better Switch. I've talked about the pre-launch buzz before, so I won't get too into that, but I picked up my console on day one, and I have not looked back. Over the last year, I've been getting myself into all sorts of situations with it. I took it with me across the world from Australia to the UK and Portugal, and for the last year, it's largely been my main gaming device alongside my desktop PC. So, dear viewer, you may be wondering, is it good? Is it worth it? And I'm getting there. Without further ado, ladies, gentlemen, theys and thems, sit back and relax as we talk about the Nintendo Switch 2. This console is the bee's knees, man. I really like it. I'm not qualified enough to talk hardware and specs, but it finally feels like that concept of handheld and home console hybrid that the first Switch presented to the mainstream has finally been brought to its full potential. Everything is so smooth, everything is so snappy. While I haven't tried everything that's available on the platform, the games that I have played run so well that I could easily see this being someone's only gaming system. The controllers and accessories are all super robust and feel great to use. Plus, it helps that the games that are there, specifically the first-party games, are some of the best things we've gotten out of Nintendo in recent memory. Shortly after this thing came out, I mentioned that the console feels really nice to use. After a year, that still holds up. It's obviously not the most ergonomic thing in the entire world, being a big old tablet, but it feels good. I've toyed with the idea of potentially picking up one of those cases that add a bit of extra grip, like the kill switch from D-Brand, but honestly, the console is fine enough on its own. I actually did buy something similar at launch, this crystal case, and I really wasn't a fan of it. Taking off the Joy-Cons as well and slotting it into the grip also feels way nicer than the Switch 1, and after having it for a year, I can confirm that it's not recency bias. I liked the feel of it so much that I went and picked up the charging grip so I could get that form factor but with the added GL and GR buttons that the Pro Controller has. A complaint that I do have is that the stick caps on the Joy-Con 2, in my experience, are weirdly low quality. I don't hammer my console and actually barely use it in handheld these days, but I've noticed some erosion of the material from, I'm assuming, natural skin oils. I've never seen this before on any of my other consoles or controllers, and I keep my hands clean before any of you go and throw accusations out there, so I can only assume it's a failure of the material. Still, it's just cosmetic and doesn't actually affect the function of the stick, so it's not the end of the world. I'm not losing any sleep over it. The other big feature of the Joy-Con 2 was the idea of turning it on its side and using it as a mouse sensor. That is something that I have never, ever willingly used. The only time I ever had fun with it was in an optional post-credits fight in Deltarune Chapter 4, and I guess some of the minigames in Nintendo Switch 2 Welcome Tour, but outside of that, it's still way too gimmicky of a feature for me to like it. I know it's got some application in Pokemon Pokopia, and I know some people like that, but I don't know, man. Maybe I'm just afraid of something being different. The main controller that I use with my console is the official Nintendo Switch 2 Pro Controller. This thing is phenomenal, and I really, really dig it. It feels awesome in the hands, the thumbsticks are super smooth, the added utility the GL and GR buttons bring is fantastic, and it's one of my favorite controllers maybe ever? My first impressions of the Pro Controller were kinda similar, I know, but like, God forbid a guy be consistent, right? Some people don't really like the fact that it and the Joy-Con 2 lack analog triggers. I kind of agree, but at the same time, it doesn't make me think any less of these peripherals. It'd be a nice thing to have, sure, allowing for greater parity in third-party games, but in my use case with the console, there's not really a whole lot I'd get out of the controllers having analog support. Honestly, the only real thing I'd want out of this controller is multi-device pairing. The PS5's DualSense and Xbox Series controllers both support this, with you being able to save multiple connections to the controller's memory, such as a PC and console or two consoles, and switch between them with a button combo rather than having to repair them every time. One thing the Switch 2 does have over the PS5 and Xbox Series consoles, though, is the fact that it actually has games. I know, I'm pulling your leg. I think the lineup of software released for the system over the last year, plus the games from Switch 1 thanks to backwards compatibility, have been decent to quite good. Add-on Switch 2 editions, add-on performance patches, all of that, and there's quite a robust selection of games to play here. So, like a true Nintendo fan, I'm gonna talk about them on the internet instead of playing them. Who's with me? Alrighty gang, this is where the fun begins. I've played a good chunk of the exclusive titles from this past year, as well as a good few third-party titles, Switch 2 editions, and backwards compatible Switch 1 games that both have and haven't received updates for the console. Kicking things off was the game that everybody and their dog thought was going to be a pack-in title, Nintendo Switch 2 Welcome Tour. I'm still kinda baffled that this game wasn't included with the console, instead being a separate purchase, and the fact that nobody is really talking about it a year out kind of proves that. The tech demo came and went like a gentle spring breeze, and while it was a cool novelty for like 20 minutes, it had absolutely zero staying power and is probably gonna be relegated as a footnote of the console's history that'll make for, I don't know, an interesting trivia night answer a few years from now. Like, what was the name of Super Mario's brother? Oh, I know, it's Nintendo Switch 2 Welcome Tour! What? I also picked up a few other games on day one. Physical copies of Bravely Default Flying Fairy HD Remaster, Sonic X Shadow Generation, Cyberpunk 2077, a digital copy of Deltarune, and a digital copy of Mario Kart World, thanks to a launch bundle that came with the console and Mario Kart for a reduced price. And people say Nintendo's greedy. Bravely Default and Sonic were on what's known as game keycards, physical boxes and cartridges, yes, but with almost no game data on the actual card, instead acting as a key to a digital copy of the game that you download from Nintendo eShop. I take it back. Yeah, I understand the frustration with them. I don't think they're the worst or that Nintendo is the literal embodiment of everything wrong with the world because of them, but instead I think they're a necessary evil because the alternative likely would have been nothing physical at all. While they are nice to have as things that I can have on the shelf, it is a legitimate concern that one day the servers will be shut down and you won't ever be able to re-download these games if you delete them from the system. If that day ever does come though, and there's no other way to access these games, I'd be pretty surprised. The DSi, Wii, Wii U, and 3DS online services have all been down for quite some time now, but at the time of making this, you can still re-download purchased titles from those consoles well after their respective shutdowns, so I don't know. There are some games that make sense to be on keycards, like Final Fantasy VII Remake and Rebirth, or Assassin's Creed Shadows, or other games that either wouldn't fit on a cartridge or need the high-speed storage that the cartridge can't provide, but then there are other games like Pokemon Pokopia and Sonic and Bravely Default that were honestly really surprising to be on keycards. Sonic X Shadow Generations, in particular for me, has me occasionally wishing that I just bought it digitally. For context, Sonic Generations is one of my favorite games ever. And so I'm throwing it in at least like once a week, and with the official Switch 2 carrying case only being able to support 6 games with 12 if you stack the cartridges, which is what I do, it means I've always got that card on me. If the game was actually on the cartridge, like the Switch 1 version, it'd be a different story, but you know. Also, just quickly, it's another first world problem, but Sega, come on buddy. What happened with Shadow Generations on this console? It's been a year, and I was holding out hope that the shockingly low-res performance mode would get an update, especially after the Switch 2 edition of Crossworlds looks and runs as well as it does, but what are you gonna do? Cyberpunk 2077, on the other hand, is still a really solid port and holds up as a great way to experience the game a year later. I've actually been wanting to replay Cyberpunk lately, and I'm genuinely torn between playing it on PC with all the bells and whistles and ray tracing and path tracing and all of that, because I can run that, or on the Switch 2, where sure, it doesn't run or look as good, but damn does it hold its own. That game specifically has cross progression, so you can play across multiple platforms if you have the game on multiple platforms, but like, I really like the novelty of this thing being on the Switch to begin with. This is off topic, but I actually do want some input on this. I'm not promising anything, but if you were to watch a hypothetical video on Cyberpunk by yours truly, or if it ever came up in another video, would you rather see footage of the Switch version or the PC version? Let me know in the comments. Deltarune was one of those games that I was gonna pick up regardless of what it launched on. I love Deltarune. I'm itching for Chapter 5, man. I'm so keen to talk about it again on here. I picked it up on the Switch 2 largely out of convenience, and while I've also now got a copy on Steam, my preferred way to play continues to be the Switch 2. It does help that there's a little bit of exclusive Switch 2 content with the alternate mic fight and like some random dialogue box in Chapter 4, but it also just feels right at home on a Nintendo platform, you know? Okay, Mario Kart. I've talked pretty extensively about Mario Kart World. Here's a quick look at that. You get that? I won't get too into it, but for a brief overview / refresher if you've been here before, I really like a lot of the ideas Mario Kart World brings to the table, but it falls short of being truly brilliant thanks to a few strange, arbitrary design choices that hold back the entire package. Courses, knockout tours, and online modes are all incredible, and even the free roam grew on me, but the routes between courses got really stale really quickly. The Grand Prix is artificially kneecapped, and those, coupled with a few other things, really brought down the whole thing for me. I don't think it's worth $80, but I'm also not gonna go out and attack people who did purchase it for that price. Other people have said it better, but I think Nintendo setting it at that price is what deserves criticism, and people choosing to spend their hard-earned money on whatever they want is totally none of my business. Speaking of getting criticized for spending money though, I picked up the Switch 2 edition of Pokemon Legends ZA on release, and I'm not afraid to say I really enjoyed it. Oh, so you like slop? You like Game Freak slop? This one's gonna do numbers on Twitter. There's a lot of genuine criticism that this game deserves. Like, yeah, the buildings are all simple, primitive shapes with no depth to them. That does suck. I can't believe how low-hanging this was. But also the game is just a lot of fun. The real-time battling was a really welcome change. The story was quite intriguing and had some really cool characters and moments. And just walking around with your guys in Lumiose City and existing in that world was a lot of fun. The DLC is quite disappointing though, and I haven't brought myself to finish it, even though I really like the main story, but I'll get around to it eventually. If you liked Pokemon Legends ZA, awesome. If you thought it could be better, also awesome. I exist in both camps. There are things to like, there are things to not. I don't know if it's a hot take, but it's not a binary decision. People do not have to attack other people for liking or disliking a product or a piece of entertainment or a console, and people also don't have to feel like they can't or shouldn't enjoy something based on a common online consensus. It's like nuance doesn't exist or something. It's so weird. Something that was pretty universally liked though was a little game by the name of Donkey Kong Bananza. Oh, baby, what a game! I picked it up on day one, but didn't truly get stuck into it until a few months later, and man, it was so good. DK's redesign is amazing in motion. The interactions between him and Pauline are really sweet. The game is so vibrant and so fun, and when I rolled credits on it, I genuinely thought about immediately starting up a new file to do it all over again. It's that good. I played a little bit of Kirby Air Riders and Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment, but neither of those games really clicked with me. It could be that I just need to give them more time. I know Kirby especially is a hit with some people, but I guess I know I'm one of those Nintendo fans because it just doesn't grab me, you know? By the way, what's Metroid? A game that did grab me this year, though, was Pokemon Pokopia. Oh my god, that took over my life for a bit there. It was wild! I haven't stopped playing it either. It's another one I've already spoken about, so I won't go too in-depth, but this game fell into my lap at the perfect time for me and was like everything I needed for a little while. It ended up being a surprise system seller, and I'm still playing a little bit each week. It doesn't have its claws in me anymore like it did on launch, but I'm still finding time here and there to play it, and I absolutely love it. Speaking of Pokemon, I mentioned earlier that I went overseas, and while I was traveling, I was playing a bunch of Pokemon Violet. I shot a thing in this really pretty Portuguese town, which may see the light of day one day, maybe not, I don't know, but man, the performance upgrade on this console for Scarlet and Violet continues to be one of the best before and afters that has come out of this transition from the Switch 1 to the Switch 2. While I was in the UK, there was an open network test for Sonic Racing Crossworlds, but only the Switch 1 version, which both ran and looked like not good on the Switch 2. I ended up picking that game up on PC, but eventually saw it on a good enough sale on the Switch 2 to justify double dipping. I also played a lot of Mario Galaxy with the launch of Super Mario Galaxy 1 and 2 on the Switch, which has 4K 60 support on the Switch 2, which was really cool. And also Breath of the Wild, oh my god! The Switch 2 version of that, while mainly just a resolution and frame rate bump, was genuinely a really great upgrade that allowed me to rediscover the magic of that game all over again. I had a free week in, must have been July or August of 2025, and I played it from start to finish and didn't really go outside much till I was done with it. There's a few other Nintendo Switch 2 editions that I've picked up over the year, namely Kirby and the Forgotten Land, Animal Crossing New Horizons, and Xenoblade Chronicles X, but they're all in the backlog for various reasons. Kirby's mainly just a case of I haven't found the time, but Animal Crossing is strange with it being locked to 30 frames per second, and while Xenoblade Chronicles X is 60 frames, there's some strange upscaling artifacts that I'm hoping get patched sooner or later. I'm also holding out for Switch 2 editions or performance updates for the other 3 Xenoblade games, because I love those games and I really want to replay them, but I don't know, man, I'm starting to lose hope. Oh, one other thing, Switch 1 games getting a run in their docked resolution while the Switch 2 is in handheld is really sweet. Weird that it took as long as it did to be pushed out to the console, but better late than never, right? But a console is more than its games sometimes. While the software lineup has been pretty decent, there's a few quirks of the console and some other strange decisions that have me feeling a little bit critical about some of the things going on here. For example, game chat does not need to be as big of a feature as it is. I don't know, maybe your experience is different, but I can count on one hand the amount of times I've used it over the last year. There's nothing wrong with having voice chat on the console, it's a welcome addition, but to have a whole button dedicated to it and to have precious system resources always dedicated to it is kind of a strange decision. The PlayStation 5 and Xbox have Discord integration, which is really, really cool. And I wish the Switch 2 had that. I know Nintendo probably wouldn't let it happen, but a guy can dream, right? That chat button weirdly made its way onto the NSO GameCube controller, which is also, it's kind of weird. The fact that we have GameCube games at all is good, but the library is tiny, even a year out. And there's some pretty glaring omissions, like, where is Super Mario Sunshine? It's in 3D All-Stars, which you can't buy anymore. But I have it, because I fell for FOMO. And Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness dropping before Colosseum was a weird move. And like, while having an official way to play Wind Waker on modern hardware is always welcome, it just makes me think of all the quality of life improvements the Wii U version brought to the table. No lie, I've been wanting to replay Wind Waker for this entire year, but every time I sit down to play it, I go, man, I wish I was playing Wind Waker HD on the Wii U. And then when I boot up my Wii U, I think about taking the game with me on the go, and I go, man, I wish I was playing the GameCube version of Wind Waker on the Switch too. It's a tough life being me, but someone's gotta do it. There was also a Virtual Boy release for NSO, which is honestly pretty sick, but I haven't got around to grabbing one yet, so, you know. One more little nitpick. Where are the apps? Where's YouTube? What's going on there? There's a few things that would be really nice to have and kind of no-brainers. Like, I don't know, I understand it's not that deep, but come on, man. This console costs a lot of money, and it's gonna get more expensive as time goes on because that's just the way things go these days, apparently. So, love it or hate it, the Switch 2 has been out for around a year, and it is not slowing down anytime soon. Games continue to be announced and released for the console, like Pokemon Winds and Waves, Fire Emblem Fortune's Weave, Splatoon Raiders, and Star Fox, which is so cool, by the way. And the thing continues to sell like hotcakes day in and day out. It is not going anywhere, and I, for one, cannot wait for the future of the Switch 2. Ah, hello Nintendo. Where's the next 3D Mario? What? What's a Metroid?